Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Silicon Nubian web channel, where we do all things tech. Also check out the links in this video to other places where we have a presence on the internet. We'd love to hear from you, get your feedback, and if you like what we're doing here, we encourage you to subscribe to this channel, and let's get this channel growing. Well, another Ubuntu release. This one, Ubuntu 15.10, the Wiley Werewolf, has just been dropped and a few days ago, and we're going to take a very quick overview of this new Ubuntu release. New Ubuntu releases are a big deal because of all the spins that feed off of the official Ubuntu releases. You'll notice if you go to, for example, distrowatch.com, that every time a new Ubuntu is released, there's about 5 or 6 immediately. Usually it's Kubuntu, Lubuntu, and a few other ones that come out right away, these different spins of Ubuntu. But with respect to spins, this is the root of them. This is Ubuntu 15.10, Wiley Werewolf. What's new in Ubuntu 15.10? Well, let's call it more of the same, but different. The major difference is Ubuntu has moved up to the Linux kernel version 4.2, which is a major improvement or major change. Some may not call it an improvement. I do. It comes with positives and negatives. One of the negatives is, as it ships, this kernel, this version of Ubuntu, no longer is compatible with the AMD FGLRX video driver. Ubuntu's own release notes do say, and I quote, warmly, it is warmly recommended, unquote, that if you're upgrading from an earlier version of Ubuntu, 15.04 or whatnot, that you revert back to the open source driver prior to installing or upgrading to 15.10 because of this known incompatibility. Well, that could be an inconvenience for some people, but to be forewarned is to be forearmed. So that's where you go with that. If you're installing from scratch, not to worry. The Ubuntu will automatically detect and install the open source Radeon driver. Also included are new wallpapers in this release, of course. GNOME GTK has been updated to 3.16. Ubuntu web browsers included, new scroll bars, and tons of Unity 8 and software updates, package updates, a lot of them. Let's log in. Here we see the default Ubuntu login screen. Love it or hate it, I kind of like it a lot. I love the simplicity of it. And we'll just log in. Ubuntu, of course, is arguably the most popular and well-known Linux distribution out there. Its spins, the amount of spins, quality spins that come off of it are almost too much to mention right now. We have Ubuntu, Lubuntu, we have, oh my gosh, there's just too many. Quite a number of them. And then we have ones that have originally spun off of Ubuntu but have moved in their own direction, such as Linux Mint, another completely fantastic Linux distribution. And Ubuntu has an embarrassment of riches. It has arguably one of the best basis for support in a Linux community, application support, communities in terms of forums and other websites dedicated to this distribution, and consequently a lot of its spin-offs and whatnot. Out of the box, Ubuntu comes fairly plain, as can be seen here. Unity is the desktop. That is Ubuntu's desktop choice. It was controversial a while back when Ubuntu said they were going to Unity full-time and they were developing it as their own a desktop GUI, but that controversy has passed. And one of the things about Linux that newbies or people just coming to it have to embrace is the fact that you have choice. If you don't like Unity, it's very simple to go ahead and install, for example, Cinnamon or Mate or GNOME, Shell, whatever you want. It's up to you. But this is what Ubuntu ships with, and I would chance to guess that a number of people will stick with this desktop, in particular people coming to Linux. So let's check it out. It's a very simple looking desktop, and it's actually very simple to operate. On the top right, we have the status, we have the battery. Of course, we're using English. This is telling us here that we have a network connection. Clicking on it once, I can change all kind of different things to it. I can enable, disable networking, VPN, create, configure a VPN connection out of the box. Here I can change the language, the character map, which I won't. Here we have the battery. Battery is fully charged. As it's saying, the power settings. Here we have the clock with the calendar, which we can do things with right away, time and date settings. I'm in Montreal, but Toronto was the closest city that was mentioned. Here, of course, we have the volume control. Of course, it's showing that Rhythm Box is active, which is interesting. Here we have, of course, the power down. If you want to log out, suspend, shut down. We want to switch users. We want to lock the screen. So a lot of functionality up here on this bar. And if we move to the left at the taskbar or the Unity bar or whatever they wish to call it, we have, of course, the list of applications. Ubuntu by default does not ship with much, and I like that, much like Elementary OS, which by the way is based on Ubuntu as well. The developers have made the very good decision to ship it with as little applications as possible, but make sure that those that are included are of very high quality. We have, of course, Thunderbird Mail, we have Help, we have a video player, text editor, and Rhythmbox music player, which is very capable if playing music player. I myself prefer Clementine or one of those other players, but this player is very capable. You can add your streams. We have Last.fm, Libra.fm, of course, online radio. You can add your own streams and whatnot, and of course play local content, most definitely. We have the Ubuntu file manager. Typical. It's typical. I say that in a different way because there are so many spins on Ubuntu. Sometimes when you've used the spins for so long and you come back to Ubuntu, it seems a bit like, well, I've seen that before. And I have, and there's a reason, because it works. It works. Very functional, very plain, but very nice looking. I just like the look. I've always liked the plainness of it. We have Firefox, which is the default web browser. Okay, and that's a really good choice, of course. And we have LibreOffice, a few of the apps. We have the Writer installed by default. And it ships with LibreOffice 5.02, I believe, which is an excellent upgrade. LibreOffice continues to enjoy very focused and good development cycles, and I use that on a regular basis. Of course, we have Calc, the spreadsheet program for LibreOffice. And we have the presentation app for LibreOffice, Impress, as it's called. Here we have the Ubuntu Software Center. We're going to go there in a second. We have another icon here for Amazon. Now I'm going to show you something. This has been happening to me, even though this is a post-install Ubuntu and I have run updates. The Amazon app doesn't want to work. It used to come up with a crash. It used to crash and give me a system error dialog box. I'm not sure exactly why it's doing that, and to be honest with you, it's not something I would probably use. I'd probably unlock from the launcher and delete it anyways. Down here we have the system settings. Again, like I said before, it's been done before. This is the root. Ubuntu is the root of a lot of different spins, and this is the great thing about it. I still think that probably, arguably, once again, everything is arguably in the Linux world, quote unquote, SUSE, OpenSUSE has probably one of the best system setting centers with YAS and YAS2 that I've ever seen. But Ubuntu, for the average user, is great. People who are afraid of Linux saying that, oh, I'm going to need to use the command line, it couldn't be farther from the truth. There might be times with complex changes to your Linux system where potentially the command line might be an advantage and would be an advantage for an advanced user. It's much of an advantage all the time. But it's great to know that for the average user on a daily basis, you don't have to go and do anything. Everything is with a GUI. I'll show you, for example, you could change your screen display size. You can configure your network with your network hardware. You can install a printer. It will search for the printer. I've had very good luck with this. It's pretty good. Your appearance. We have a couple utilities. We can back up, folders to back up, storage location scheduling. If you want to keep things, you have a document folder that's constantly changing and you want to make sure you have a backup of that. Well, that's built in and can be also put on a schedule. We have details of your system, like a system information. This is interesting. Ubuntu Landscape Client. I'll read what it says. Landscape is the easy-to-use commercial systems management and monitoring service offered by Canonical, Ubuntu's company, that helps administrators manage multiple machines efficiently. I'm not familiar with that app, but I'd love to look a little bit more into what it does. That being said, this is a quick overview, and outside the scope. Looking into this app would be outside the scope of this video. We have software and updates, the settings where you can, you can check, you can configure how often it checks for updates, where the installed OS would look for updates, time and date, of course, using universal access, text entry, so much different stuff here. Security and privacy. So all in all, it's great. Right-clicking on anywhere on the desktop, you can create a new folder, document, open a terminal. Terminal I was talking about. And here we have it. Ubuntu's kernel is the, I'm running in VirtualBox here, 4.2.0-16 generic Ubuntu SMP kernel. So Ubuntu's made the leap to the 4.2 kernel. Very good to see that. And let's go to the Software Center. This is one of the best things I have been able to show people thinking about coming to Linux that will allow them to feel more comfortable. One of the biggest gripes I have is, well, what about the software? Much of the software has a different naming convention. Of course, this is changing. Chromium, same thing. Firefox, Firebird. There's a lot of software now that have the same names, but there's still a lot that are different. And the Linux world, open source software is at the very least as good quality for the most part as in the Windows or OS X world. And the Software Center is good because you may not be familiar with the names, for example. For example, if I go to Internet Applications, FileZilla, Pigeon, they're all there, the good stuff. Firefox web browser, Chromium web browser. Installation is still very simple. Click on it, gives you a blurb, gives you reviews of the software. This is, of course, Google Chrome web browser. In the Linux world, it's called Chromium. Click install, and it shows me right there. It is going out. It's going to get the software for me, and it's going to run the install, and I will have Chromium, aka Google Chrome, on this system ready to use. And while that's doing its thing, I can continue to move around and look for other software. I can turn on recommendations. It's a great piece of work. I like the Ubuntu Software Center. At times it can seem a bit cluttered, but for the new user and more advanced users, of course, it just simplifies looking for and acquiring good software to run. And remember, distributions like Ubuntu, as we have here, and we have the desktop version, if I didn't mention that already, don't ship with a ton of software. They ship with a minimal amount, and they leave it to the user to configure the system the way they want it with respect to their software selections, which I think is a better way to go around it, in my opinion. Of course, we see that Chromium has now been installed and is available for use. Very easy. No error there. Chromium 45 is what's installed. Again, this is a quick overview. Not much has changed in terms of the functionality, interacting with the system, but a lot has changed under the hood. And as I mentioned before, certain changes have broken things for now with respect to the AMD graphics driver. There's also a few other things. If you're upgrading from 1504, I would highly recommend you go to the Ubuntu wiki and look at the Wiley Werewolf release notes. They have a whole section on upgrading from 15.04 to 15.10. Updated packages, post-install, upgrade graphics and display, official flavors. And this is it. The spins that are official off of Ubuntu are Kubuntu, which uses the KDE as a desktop, Lubuntu, which uses, I believe, LXDE, Ubuntu GNOME, that's self-explanatory, Ubuntu Kylin, which I'm not very familiar with, Ubuntu Mate, of course, Mate is another desktop GUI, Ubuntu Studio, people who deal with a lot of audio and video creation, and Xbuntu, which uses XFCE. Those are the official spins. There's probably 5 to 6 more non-official spins out there, which if you go to, for example, distrowatch.com, over the next few days, you will see tons of them being released, and a number being released, I should say, and detailed. So that's it for now. This is the quick overview of Ubuntu 15.10. I hope you enjoyed the video. Go out, give it a try, kick the tires a bit. You can run in a VM, or if you have a little PC at home, which some people have, where they like to install and try stuff out, try it on real hardware. It is at the time that I've been using it, for the time I've been using it, it's been quite stable and very predictable, which is probably one of Ubuntu's greatest assets, is the predictability. Very easy to get into the desktop and be functional and productive almost immediately post-install. Give it a 2 thumbs up. It is the mother of of a very large community out there, and we watch it closely. I do have to point out, though, that the 15.10 release is not an LTS release as far as I know. We will await the LTS release sometime down the road, but still the window for updates and whatnot is more than sufficient for most people. So just want to say thanks for watching the video. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Tell us your experiences with Ubuntu 15.10 down in the comments section. We would love to hear from you, and help us to build a growing community, and check out our other videos as well. Take care, and we'll see you soon.